Greetings, brothers and sisters. I'm Professor Spira, and welcome to the second part of our discussion about fasting. And this is lesson 19 of Arnold Ehret's mucusless diet healing system, and you can see a link for part 1 down below. And of course, a quick disclaimer: the content of this presentation is strictly for informational and educational purposes only. If you choose to use the information on yourself, the author, myself, content creators, and presenters take no responsibility for your actions, so on and so forth. So and I always strongly recommend reading Mucusless Diet book, Read Rational Fasting by Professor Arnold Ehret. And there's also some of us that do coaching and consultations. I'm one of the only mucusless diet consultants that I know of that's out here. But, so there's help. There's definitely help. There's support systems. Have a really good Facebook forum going. People trying to practice the diet, supporting each other. So good things are happening. But this is a very important topic. We did the intro to Ehret's perspectives and methods on fasting in a previous video. Finally got around to making this one, and this, hopefully this will clarify certain things. There's a lot of misunderstanding about fasting, what is fasting, what isn't fasting. So what we're going to focus on is Arnold Ehret's best practices, or his his principles or methodologies of fasting. So first and foremost, as long as waste is in the circulation, you will feel miserable during a fast. And this is something that a lot of people don't understand, because yes, there's times when you can be into some kind of fast and you feel euphoric, you feel wonderful, you feel great. For the first time, your body has more energy to cleanse itself that you were wasting on eating a bunch of stuff that your body was trying to figure out how to deal with. So sometimes you can feel great, but then other times, as waste is really starting to kick up and circulate in your system, you're going to feel terrible. And you can't blame, don't blame the fast. Don't blame a mucusless diet. That's what so many people do, is they want to blame fasting or the mucusless diet for feeling bad. If you ride it out, and people that have experienced fasting that know what they're doing can attest to, you have to ride it out, and you get to a point where once that waste is eliminated out of your system, you feel like 20 times better. As it says here, is as soon as it's through the kidneys, you feel fine. And so Arnold Ehret talked about the kidneys and how important kidneys were in terms of elimination. The analysis of the importance of kidneys and trying to regenerate kidneys has been then taken, I think, to the next level with someone like Dr. Robert Morris, who's one of the only other people that really will talk about and look at the kidneys and their role in detoxification, fasting, and elimination. But Ehret got into it. Ehret sort of lays that framework, because he talks about lymph, but he doesn't necessarily use the term lymphatic system. Some of that terminology really wasn't involved, but the entire, anytime you're talking about mucus in the body, you're going to be, and anytime you're talking about the body, you're talking about the lymphatic system. Then don't just talk about the blood. If you're going to talk about the venous system, talk about both sides of it. And the lymphatic system is the side that needs to be functioning. And what happens during a fast is your body starts to contract internally. Your venous system, it starts to squeeze and contract. And as it does that, it's able to squeeze out waste. So 2 or 3 days later, the same process repeats itself. So what you will experience is there's a cyclical nature to the fasting and elimination process. So you get into a fast, and you might start off, you feel pretty good, or normally what happens is the first couple days are kind of rough, and you get past that second day, and then you're feeling good. And you might feel good for several days, and then here comes another elimination point. Some people call that healing crisis, depending on how extreme it is. But it's just a time when the body is trying to eliminate, trying to kick things up a notch, and be able to eliminate the waste that is there. And in order for the body to ever be able to repair anything, if it needs to try to repair some organs or a gland or whatever, the body has to be cleansed of acidity, of the acid waste that is the result of years of having eaten pus and mucus forming foods that remained uneliminated. That's where we say, okay, there's mucus forming foods, pus forming foods. They all mucus and pus decompose ultimately into acids. Mucus and pus don't decompose into something that's alkaline, to something that's nice and cleansing. It decomposes into this nasty, it can turn into that real viscous kind of sludge. But if it gets down enough, far enough, it's going to be very acidic. So it must now be clear to you why conditions change so often during a fast. It's just sometimes it can be up and down, and that's why it's important to be able to give yourself the space to rest and relax. Lay down a lot. Ehret's methods are not about that work out while you're fasting type of mentality. That's counterproductive oftentimes, and it all depends on what level you're at. But for the majority of the people that are trying to heal themselves and clean themselves up, you want to rest, you want to lay down, you want to fast, you want to chill, you want to try to keep your spirits high as best as you can, but you want to chill and not when you do a lot of exercises or you do a lot of thinking. I mean, I'm guilty of that, where I would be fasting and then I get into doing some like work, and or I'm reading something, or I get sucked into wanting to study something, and now I'm thinking and I'm not resting. And so I have to sometimes, okay, let me just lay down, let me rest, let me try to find something. If I'm gonna watch a movie or a documentary or whatever, try to get something that I'm not gonna get too sucked into. But that's all part of the art of this thing. It all depends on how deep you're going. Then sometimes in a fast, I will shut off all media and TVs and electricity, and that's just part of the fast. But it just depends. If you're going for long periods of time, that's another thing. Sometimes you got to kind of transition to those things, because we're so addicted to technology, our phones and Facebook and all that kind of stuff, to go a couple days where we just unplug from it cold turkey. That messes some people up. So something to think about as the cleansing happens. The new and cleaner and more potent blood is developed. So as the blood gets cleaner, it's able to get deeper and deeper into your system. Let me bring that back up. The only thing I would add now to this is that also as you get cleaner, your lymphatic system starts to circulate a bit more, starts to function, and that's what we want. We want to get the stagnant lymph system to begin to start moving and filtering waste properly. So, from Ehret's own advice, long fasting is not advisable. Fasters who died from fasting too long did not die from the lack of food, but they actually suffocated in their own loosened waste. Hugely important point that a lot of people don't understand. You got to change your mentality that a long fast automatically means miraculous healing. Some people can do it. Sometimes it does. Everybody's body is different. Everybody's circumstances are different. But we're talking about best practices for most people. And what I find to be the most effective thing is don't wait until you have some kind of chronic illness and then now you're going to try to get in the mucusless diet and disease. Start today. Start transitioning today. Get into some 2 and 3 day long fast periodically, every couple weeks or every week or whatever. And so by the time something does happen and you need to do a longer fast, you'll know what you're doing and it'll be safe. Because I do longer fast myself, but I've spent years doing 2 to 3 day long fast. And we'll talk a little bit more about this. The immediate cause of death is not a poverty of blood and vital substances, but from too much obstruction. And again, this is where something that's so simple, but Ehret just nails it. Vitality equals power minus obstruction, meaning the less obstruction that there is in the body. In this case, obstruction represents acid waste, stagnant lymph system, uneliminated, undigested foods, substances are all obstruction in the human body. Toxemias, all of this stuff are unnatural and obstructive to the body. And as soon as there's more of that, then you have sickness. And as soon as there's too much of that, you have death. And it's as simple as that. But it's also as complicated as that, because it's not a truth that most people want to have to deal with, because they don't want to entertain the notion that the pus and mucus forming foods that they're eating will undoubtedly cause their disease. It's easier if you can blame a disease on a little virus or whatever. But as soon as you say, well, pus and mucus forming foods are the foundation of human illness, it's a hard sell. So Ehret has a section where he talks about fasting drinks. And now we have to get into this section of what constitutes a true fast. There's a lot of different opinions on this. Some people say that a dry fast is an only true fast. Some people say that a water fast is the only kind of true fasting. Some people say that a fruit juice fast and beyond is the only thing that constitutes fasting. Some people will say that fruit eating can be a level of fasting. And some people will even then say that the vegetable juices and fruit juices for extended period of time, that could be a level of fasting. So what I interpret from Ehret's writings that I think is just applicable and just makes sense is a very general definition of fasting is anytime you restrict the diet and move toward mucus forming foods, it's going to be some level of fasting if you want to look at it like that. For Ehret's purposes of sort of what he considers to be his standard fasting level is going to be a fruit juice fast. Now this confuses some people because Ehret, when he talks about the fasts that he performed, like the 49-day fast and stuff, those were water fasts. But Ehret doesn't necessarily really promote water fasting in his works. And the reason is what we'll see here, where he says that the fruit acids neutralize the stickiness of mucus and pus. And so, light lemonade, he's got there's the lemon juice and distilled water, and you could add a little fruit juice, or Ehret mentions honey as a possibility as some kind of sweetener. But that is something that can be alkaline, as well as neutralize some of the stickiness and the acidicness of the of the waste. And of course, so there's not confusion, fruit acids become alkaline when you eat them in the body. So it's very different from other forms of acids, like some mucus forming foods that ultimately turn to acids. That's fruit acids are like the opposite. They turn alkaline in the body, and they're what's needed to help loosen the waste. And so when you have these really chronic conditions of, and people have this really hardened mucus and stagnant lymph systems in these different parts of their body, then lemon juice fasting is one of the strongest fasts you can do. Now, for me, one of the really great fasts is I'll do just lemon juice, no distilled water, and just juice a couple lemons and drink it, and drink that, and that will be the only, and do a fast like that. And that's gonna be a much more aggressive fast, but that's I say that just to say there's a lot of different levels that you can play with, because you can always get more aggressive. I mean, you could do these fruit juice fasts, do all this. You can always do a water fast, and you can do it as long as I don't put limits on people. What I'm trying to get across is best practices. Be rational. Work your way up to be able to do things, because it's not a competition. That doesn't, to be able to say, well, I did a 40-day water fast, that based on some ego kind of stuff, that doesn't mean anything. Because I know too many people that have done these 40-day fasts, and then they went back to eating meat a couple weeks later. So this is about slow, systematic change, and how do you use fasting over a longer period of time to transform your physiology permanently, so that it's impossible to go back to where you were. That's the power of applying the system in its totality, the Mucusless Diet Healing operative word system. Now, drugs in the body are stored, and this is something a lot of people don't understand. They start going through eliminations, they get nervousness. I mean, I've been going through some stuff where if I go online and I look up the drugs that I used to take, the pharmaceutical drugs that I had taken since I was a child, I'm going through every one of those side effects. Just nervousness or headaches, and just every one of this long list of possible side effects. I'm going through them, and I can even taste. And this, I'm 12 years into diet. I can even taste sometimes a bit of those drugs I used to take. The way they, this old chalky, nasty stuff. I can actually taste that in my mouth, because I took so much of that stuff. It got embedded into my system, and that stuff does not eliminate naturally. You have to work to get this stuff to eliminate, and it's only going to come out during fasts in most cases. So be ready for that. If you took vaccines and any kind of pharmaceutical stuff, if you did any kind of recreational drugs, you smoked weed, you did cocaine, ecstasy, whatever it is you did, it's gonna come back out in detox, and it's probably not gonna feel good. So don't blame the fruit, don't blame the fasting when these things come, because they come, you feel it. Like they say, you feel a drug twice. You feel the effects of it when you do it, when you put it in your body, and then you're going to feel the effects when it's coming out. And there's a lot of us that just didn't know any better, and we got a lot of stuff that we put in there. So we got a lot of work to do. Yet again, why I said long-term thinking. Instead of trying to do 50-day fast and see if you can get it all out, it's not going to happen. break it up over the course of years and get into longer and longer fasting periods or whatever you need for your body physiologically, but get as far away from mucus forming foods as possible, or at least the worst mucus forming foods. But that's the system with fasting as a part of it, and being able to try to deal with this stuff. I mean, this drug thing, it's one of those things where, and I know, and I've felt I wasn't a hardcore marijuana smoker, but I mean, I did that. I drank the alcohol, and I smoked weed, as we would call it, and and I did all that. Did a few hard drugs and stuff too, but the worst thing that I had probably could have ever done was I took there was something called Celdane, and then that was killing people, so they took that off the market, and then I was taking Allegra D, and both of those were basically lymphatic system suppressants. They dried me out, and they dried my head out, they suppressed everything, and my body was constantly trying to eliminate mucus, and so I would be, and then I would take a bunch of drugs, and it would dry me out, and I'm dealing with that right now because my head, as I've been going through an elimination recently, and I'm fasting myself. That's why I was like, let me go ahead and do this video. But I can feel the dryness, all of this stuff that's as the acids start to unpack themselves in my head. I can feel it, and it's taken a long time. But what else do I have to do? There's no rush. There's no rushing that can be done. The body is going to do what it can do and what it wants to do in the order it wants to do it at. That's another interesting thing that would be for people to look at one day in the future. Is you'll notice that the body wants to heal what it wants to heal when it wants to heal it. So you could have a particular issue that might be cosmetic that you're looking at like, man, I really want to heal this, and then you start to fast and you notice that, like, oh, my arm feels better. I didn't even think about it. Or you'd be like, oh, wow, that injury that I got when I was 5 years old, it never healed properly. My ankle hurt for a few days, but it feels good again. I didn't even know I had a problem there. That's very common. And you're sitting here looking at, say you're, if you're balding and you're hoping you get some, some hair growth, or whatever, you maybe skin condition or something. I mean, you're fixated on like one thing that you want to heal, but your body is healing like 20 other things in any given fast. So you want to be cognizant of that. You want to be patient because you want to allow your body to do what it's gonna do, because it's gonna do what it's gonna do on its own time. So back to this piece with the effects of past drugs. You got heart palpitations, headaches, nervousness, sometimes insomnia during the fast. And Eric recalls seeing patients eliminate drugs that they had taken as long as 40 years before. There's a couple interesting Robert Morris videos where he talks about people eliminating just all this like red sulfur out their nose and all these these different drugs, all these different ways. I mean, anybody that deals with people that's fasting, that's really cleansing themselves, see this because it's it's fascinating that, I mean, we just have no clue what we're doing to ourselves with these drugs, and if we knew, oh man, I mean, I just don't think we would be taking them at all. Okay, how long should one fast? So, one of the biggest principles is that the length of a fast cannot be predetermined. So when I hear people come and talk about, well, I'm gonna try to do a 10-day fast, or I'm gonna try to do a 20-day cleanse, or whatever it is, I'm just kind of like, I'm like, no, that's not really the way you want to think about it. You want to get into your fast, and then let your body sort of direct you. So that, because if you say, well, I want to do a 20-day fast, and then you end up just doing a 10-day, then you're going to feel like, oh, I didn't make it. But it's your body. You gotta work with your body, because sometimes your body, you want to, fast for a couple days, and then you might do a couple days where you're in this gray area, where it's kind of like, well, you might be eating some fruit and drinking some juice. Your body's still sort of in a fasting state, but you might be eating a little bit of fruit or something. I mean, for me, the official breaking of a fast for me is normally, and I'll have already been eating fruit for a while, but then when I go back to eating vegetables, that's when everything shuts down and any cleansing that was going on just sort of stops, is with eating the vegetables. But as long as I'm kind of in that fruit mode, there's still work going on. So when and how to break the fast is determined by carefully observing how conditions change during the fast. Write that down, memorize that. So important. That how long you fast is going to be determined by how conditions change. And so you don't want to do anything that's too extreme, but at the same time, if you're in the middle of something, you don't want to stop your body. If you're eliminating something crazy, you don't want to stop your body from doing that and hit the brakes at the wrong time. And so, and this is where an experienced coach or consultant can help you through. And I've helped a lot of people, along these lines, but it's really important, to kind of understand and be able to pick the right time and the right way to break a fast, because, like, as I say, sometimes the most important and impressive part of any fast is how it's broken. With the sophistication and elegance of breaking a fast, to me, is where it's at. I'm very unimpressed by how long somebody says they fast. I mean, that's great, if that's what you're into and that's what you need and you're doing your thing. But I'm not going to ask you how long you fast. I want to ask, well, how did you break the fast? Like, how well? Like, take me through your fast breaking process. I used to break, when I did my first 6-month long fast, I broke that fast over the course of almost 2 months. I didn't go right back into solid food. I mean, I went through a month of where it was basically, it was basically, couldn't necessarily tell if it was, well, was that a fast or is it eating, or, there was kind of a gray area. And that was just okay. I mean, that was just my own personal exploration. I'm not teaching that here necessarily, or what I did, and I'm not telling anybody to do long fasts like that. But, in terms of experience and some of what I've experienced, that's something that I do kind of bring to the methodology, is transitioning in and out of fast. Maybe I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But I say, I understand that the fast should be broken as soon as you notice the obstructions are becoming too great in the circulation and the blood needs new vital substances to resist and neutralize the poisons. This is huge to me. This was one of the aha moments for me when I read Mucus's Diet Healing System and Rational Fasting, and I came to this part and I said, because the question is, well, how long can one person fast? And this is the answer. You can fast indefinitely. You can fast as long as the blood doesn't need new vital substances. So what does that mean? What are vital substances? Is that nutrition in the sense of Western dietetic theory? No. New vital substances, coming from this perspective, would be chemistry that aids the body and the blood neutralize and eliminate poisons. If there's a lot of poisons that are circulating in the system, and if the kidneys aren't filtering fast enough, and there's too much waste that's being eliminated, and it's being eliminated faster than the body can get rid of it, you gotta slow it down. And that's where it says the blood needs new vital substances to resist and neutralize the poisons. Didn't say new vital substances to get nutrition, to feed the cells. That's not what we're saying. We're saying new vital substances to eliminate waste, to aid the body in elimination of waste. Mucus-free foods are going to be the greatest foods to do that. And fruits are going to be the foods that kind of are the most holistic in terms of it may slow down the elimination a bit, but it also is going to be a cleansing level. The vegetables slow things down way more. Cooked vegetables obviously way down. The cooked fruit is sort of an interesting area of exploration that a lot of people don't necessarily explore if they're staunch raw foodists. But anyway, these are all different levels. That's what I love about the mucusless diet, is that you basically the parameters are wide. You have your principles, but there's a lot of room for exploration to see what your body needs and where you what's right for your particular circumstance. But I hope this is clear. I know sometimes people say that the new vital substances are not really sure what that means. I just look at that as you eat a handful of grapes, it's gonna aid your body in eliminating waste. I mean, it's gonna help you eliminate waste out your blood, get the lymph system moving. It's what it does. And so that's when you need to break a fast. When you feel like there's too much waste circulating, and you can tell and you can feel it, then that's a good chance you need to break the fast, take a step back, and then you can always go deeper. You can always move back forward. Avoid the perspective, the longer you fast, the better the cure, as we already said earlier. Like I said, I know that there's fasting clinics out there. There's different people with different perspectives about levels of fasting, and water fasting versus fruit juice versus there's some people with vegetable juice, which I don't really agree with that type of, a lot of the vegetable, staunch vegetable juice. I mean, that's cool for certain like minor ailments, but the deepest stuff, I don't think anybody's ever got somebody out of a wheelchair with vegetable juices, but it has been done with fruit and fruit juices. Visit Dr. Morris's site. But so here we go. Fasting guidelines. Prepare for an easier fast by gradually changing diet toward a mucusless diet and by natural laxatives and enemas. So, principle number 1. Principle number 2, do shorter fasts periodically with some eating days of cleaning, mucus poor and mucusless diet. So, again, this is a principle of the mucusless diet. Do shorter fast more often. And do it intermittently with mucus-free diet. And it's something you got to work up to, because it's not necessarily as easy as you would think, just in your head. Because as soon as you start eating vegetables, a lot of people want to go all the way back into all kinds of mucus. And because the vegetables really aren't that, I don't know, sometimes a lot of people have to eat a lot of vegetables to get satisfied with some sustenance. With fruit, we're designed for fruit. So when you get used to eating just fruit, like you don't have to have a lot of fruit to be satisfied. But vegetables, you don't get that kick. You're not getting that grape sugar kick that you do from the fruit. And and so you can end up eating a lot more of it. Be particularly careful if the patient used much drugs, especially if a mercury or saltpeter oxide of silver taken for venereal diseases have been used, in which case along slowly changing preparative diet is advisable. So again, this is where transition diet, mucusless diet, at all levels, different aspects of healing can occur. Is you can take somebody with a terrible diet and put them on a mucus lean, just a plant-based vegan mucus lean diet right out of the Mucusless Diet book, and there's gonna be certain things that they heal. The no breakfast plan. They stop eating breakfast and they just do some fruit for lunch, or a big salad at lunch and fruit for dinner, or whatever. A lot of things can be dealt with at that level. So there's these various levels. Once you get down into fasting, now you're talking about the omnipotent healer, that this is the level that most people need to get to deal with the more serious things. So how to break a fast. The right food after a fast is also important and decisive for proper results as fast itself. It's crucial. I mean, they can't even be overstated how important it is to break the fast properly. Yet it depends entirely upon the condition of the patient and length of the fast. So let's take a look at this here. So you may learn from these two case studies that both ended fatally. So they did the fasting, but the reason that it didn't turn out well for them was because they broke the fast with the wrong food. And that is a no-no. And again, why you don't want to do long fasts, because you can lose control. And it's much better to lose control and eat something wrong, to make a mistake just doing a 2 or 3 day fast, than to make a mistake when you're doing a 10 or 20 day fast. And all of a sudden someone's in the next room making some meatloaf, and you get a whiff of it, and now you're breaking a 20 day fast with meatloaf. Not a good idea. Not what you want to do. You don't want to do that for a 2 or 3 day fast, but if you've just started the diet, it's better than doing it at breaking a 20 day fast like that, where you lose control. And so you want to keep that in mind. Because what happens is there's a little bit of a Superman and Superwoman complex sometimes that can happen when you get into a fast, because you feel so good at certain points. And when you're feeling good, you're eliminating, and all of a sudden you feel like, wow, this is I could do this. You feel like you could live like that. Not realizing how deeply sick we are, where we can't do that right now. But what you let's see. Let me keep this going here. One-sided meat eater suffering from diabetes broke his fast, which lasted about a week, by eating dates, and died from the effects. Dates are much too concentrated and not good to break a fast with. Yes, I don't really, I've done a couple little fasting periods where I might have just been on nothing but dates just to see what would happen, but I don't recommend it. They don't really eliminate all that great. They're way too concentrated, and you definitely don't want to break a real long, intensive fast with something like dates. It's just not. You want to eat something that's of a laxative effect. So whether it be watermelon, some kind of melon, grapes. If you're doing a fruit juice fast or water fast, then you're gonna want to visit your fruits. Grapes and all that, and that level, the apple maybe, the apple isn't the most refined, thing you would even want to deal with then. I would look to really the most water, really watery. I mean, for apples fine, but just don't think it's not is the greatest of things that you could select. For me, the greatest is grapes. I mean, if you find some good grapes, and that's how you break the fast. Blackberries or grapes are my personal favorite. Now, in the early days, I did break some fast with a big salad, big vegetable meal, and some, some steamed vegetables. And those were the early days when I was, still very toxic, just getting into the diet. And so that slows the elimination right up, and creates a intestinal broom with the vegetables to help kind of move out. You get some mucoid plaque coming out in your bowel movements and stuff. I mean, so there's a place for that level, and that's talked about in the mucusless diet. Once you get yourself a little cleaner, then you're going to want to break all fasts with juicy fruit or subacid fruits. So here's a case study of the Toulon fast. A man of over 60 years of age fasted 28 days, which is too long. His first meal of vegetarian foods consisted of mainly boiled potatoes. Dun, 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 dun. That was supposed to be the Price is Right losing horn. That's wrong. Don't do that. As he hears, this dude was real sick. He got into this 28 day fast. It's probably a water fast. And probably wasn't doing enemas, cleaning himself out. So when they did the operation, they saw that the potatoes were kept in place in the contracted intestines by thick, sticky mucus that was so strong that a piece had to be cut off. So it was like he already had a bunch of glue in his intestines, and by just putting some potatoes in there, it was just like putting this big potato in and putting it, just sticking it in some glue, and it's not going to move anywhere. It's not going to do anything. It's like one of the worst things that you could eat, because white potatoes is something that I officially had put on the don't even use during the transition list. And the whole white potato thing for me had to go immediately, because it's too starchy, too addictive. There was too many types of white potato things, like the potato chips and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it was just like, okay, you got to just get away from all white potato products. And sweet potatoes taste better anyway. So you can sort of get that potato thing, but get it with a sweet potato. But you never would want to break a fast with a sweet potato. The only two options for breaking a fast is going to be, if you're a little cleaner, you got your fruit level, so your subacid fruits, or your acid fruits, or there is the vegetable option. And so you can experiment with both ways. Fast a couple days and break it with some fruit, or fast a couple days, break it with a salad, and you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll see the difference, and you'll see that fruit is definitely where it's at when it comes to breaking a fast. And what I recommend is, as Eric says, you want to make sure to eat enough fruit to sort of engender a bowel movement. It's best if you have a bowel movement within a couple hours after eating for the first time again, if possible. If not, then you probably want to do an enema or something. But okay, so he said the correct advice would have been first a laxative. And in this case, the word laxative is more I've sort of created the word mover as opposed to laxative because there is sort of a negative connotation, and Ehret doesn't promote laxatives, but we'll use that word meaning a mover. So when he says laxative, he's talking of one of a couple things: either the herbal GI broom that he recommends, and these days you can get other stomach and bowel herbal formulas from folks. So that's one option. You have the fruit. There's the dried fruit followed by fruit effect, which I wouldn't break a fast with that. I mean, some people do. I have, but I wouldn't necessarily break a fast with that. I would maybe do that after I had already broke the fast, like a couple hours later. Maybe then have the something like prunes followed by some apples or blackberries or whatever. It has a laxative effect. You never want to just have like diarrhea stuff going on and that kind of thing, because that's another issue. But you can promote fairly aggressive movement. Then the other option in the realm of laxative that kind of falls into that category is doing an enema. So a lot of us do lemon juice enemas. So then later, a raw cooked starchless vegetables, a piece of rough bran bread toast. Now here again, we got something else that would be controversial to the raw food folks that Ehret did for people that were that were further down the rung in terms of really toxic. The use of something like a piece of well-toasted wheat bread was recommended but it always was to be combined with a salad, and the salads always combined raw with some cooked vegetables, and the vegetables are selected by how well they eliminate. And that's why I ask people, well, what eliminates good for you? Because I can tell you what cooked vegetables, what raw vegetables eliminate best for me, meaning they go through my intestines and they leave without incident. Some vegetables don't, and so I don't eat those. Interestingly enough, what I'd found is with the well-toasted wheat bread type of things, the reason that it's here is that if it's well toasted, it eliminates fairly well. It's relatively not addictive. It's less addictive to me than, say, something like an avocado, and it eliminates better with leaving behind less slime, because I can see with the toast, I can see it come out. If I ate it properly with the vegetables, I can see it all comes out. If I eat an avocado, my intestines are slimy for I don't want to say weeks, but it's slimy for days. And I'll still have avocado slime coming out a couple days, and that might be days of doing enemas. So I just say that to sort of put things into perspective in terms of, physiologically, and just something that's coming from this mucusless diet perspective that's going to be a little different from some of the other things that are out there in terms of, concepts about the avocados and that kind of thing. But no fruit should be eaten for a long time after the fast has been broken. So we're still in this case study. So in this particular case study, we're talking about the 60-year-old man that was very toxic, a lot of mucus kind of mess in his system, and so he did this long fast and broke it with the potato and died. So in a case like his, sometimes if you want to really back the elimination up a lot, you go for several days with no fruit, or do baked fruit or stewed fruit. So it makes it less aggressive, yet it still has a laxative effect. It's still going to eliminate, and it still doesn't leave behind slimy mucus that will one day turn to acids in the body. That's the difference. So the patient should have been prepared for the fast by a longer transition diet. Amen. Advanced fasters. More advanced fasters or those with cleaner stomachs can break a fast with a mono fruit meal. I had to add mucusless fruits only because these days a lot of people are trying to, they're trying to put avocados in that same category as as grapes or something, as that, give it that fruit level, and I just don't give it that. To me, it's if something's used, I don't know. I don't have a problem just redefining the redefining the categories, because we need to create categories that make sense for us as people that are interested in the mucusless diet healing system. And you can see some of my thoughts on that in my list of mucus forming and non-mucus forming foods, where I have sections of acid forming foods and and other things. But I would never use an avocado like a fruit, and I don't use cucumber like a fruit. They're used as vegetables, and so that's just how I think about them, because that's where they go. I don't combine cucumber with grapes and watermelon. I guess some people could, but I don't. I just that wouldn't taste good to me. I separate my mucusless fruits from vegetable meals. So mucus-forming foods should not be eaten for several days after breaking a fast. So again, you have to transition back to that. What happens oftentimes is people will fast, and they might even break the fast properly with a mono-fruit meal, but then that evening, here comes some Boca burgers and tofurkey, and they lose it, and because they have a crazy cravings for whatever, or baked beans or whatever it is. Like, all that stuff comes back, and instead of doing an enema, which might have helped to get rid of some of those poisons, all those poisons are kind of circulating and been activated by the fruit that you just ate earlier, that you broke the fast with. And since that hasn't eliminated from the body yet, all that stuff is still circulating, and here comes the cravings of some crazy stuff. And you want to avoid that, and you can if you apply the principles properly. Break the fast, get the enema in there, be ready to do a salad, be ready to do a raw mucusless salad. See if you can do that for a couple days. Kind of have a plan in mind, and be ready, and just be ready. That's my my main message, is just be ready. Okay, so we've come to the end of this lesson, so let's take a look at these review questions. Is a long fast advisable? Why or why not? Talked about that quite a bit. How long should someone fast? What kind of symptoms may be felt during the beginning of a fast? List Ehret's guidelines for fasting, the overall guidelines. How should a very sick person break a fast? And how should a more experienced faster break their fast? So if you want to answer some of these, feel free to do so down in the comment section below. And please, send this around, send this video out, share this with friends and loved ones, and you can show them there's the first video, part 1. This is part 2. There'll be a part 3 eventually. So put this information out there. Talk about some of this stuff, and share some of your experiences with fasting. What you've experienced, of what you've tried to do. Have you tried to do short fast, long fast? Have you been transitioning? Just all that kind of stuff. I'd love to hear some personal things about what you're going through and what's going on. And again, highly recommend read Mucusless Diet Healing System. There's a link below to the new annotated version that I just recently published, where there's a lot of notes in the margins that sort of clarify a lot of things that people often misunderstand, or questions that people normally have. So I kind of clarify some of those things. And also rational fasting is available. And but so get the knowledge, but then get to work. For all how we can identify as a community is really about the work, and it's about the vision of future. We are willing to sort of pioneer this next phase of humanity, because those of us that have seen this thing and see the potential and see how powerful it is, see how transformative it can be, understands that the world is transitioning right now to get ready for this, because this thing is way deeper than knowing what to eat, knowing how to fast. That's all part of it. But there's levels of understanding that this is basically the key. This is the door and the key. But nobody can turn it for you and open the door and walk in. Like you have to turn the key, you have to open the door, and you got to walk in. And you just have to take my word that once you walk in, there's some understanding about humanity and what's going on and what we need to be doing that will blow your mind, that you can't get any other way that I know of. So this piece is an important piece that has something to offer everybody. And so I encourage you to walk with conviction and really check this thing out for yourself. Like I always say, don't take my word for it, but you can't nobody can criticize this thing until they've really, really done it. And when I see people that fail, it's because they quit, or it's because they never understood the transition. They didn't try to transition. They wanted to try to fast for a real long period of time. They wanted to, something that wasn't based on themselves getting themselves together, but based on some kind of ego thing that has nothing to do with the Mucusless diet. It has nothing to do with real health. So this is a very serious practice, a very serious process. So you don't take any of this lightly. Fasting is incredibly potent, incredibly powerful, and it needs to be done right. It needs to be respected. This is not about extremism. This is not about whatever. Highly recommended. If you have any questions or you feel like you need some support, then get some help. Like I said, I do coaching and consultations. There's other places you can go that have the fasting retreats and all that kind of stuff, but you're still going to need to deal with the transition sooner or later, or the transition will deal with you, and that is real. And so you want to get on board and really investigate. Just become a student. Become a student of the transition. Become a student of life. Because to me, becoming a student of transition is basically becoming a student of life, because you start to see how everything revolves around transition. And once you harness that knowledge, then you basically will be unstoppable in terms of what you can do with a system like the Mucusless diet. That's really what it's all about, because you can always go deeper. You can always fast longer. You can always fast more aggressive. You can get into herbs. I didn't talk about that, but Eric doesn't really get into that much, but that's a level. So there's a lot more that you can get into. This is the bare bones, basic principles you keep in mind when you get started. But this world is vast, and there's a lot to explore, and there's a lot of healing that can be done. So I want to thank you for tuning in, and I enjoyed making this. I hope you enjoyed watching it, got something from it. Again, share this with everybody, with your loved ones and Facebook pals and all that kind of stuff. And until next time, peace, love, and breath.